from PRX.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, and my swamp-based beings, it's time for a podcaster who's a bit odd, but he's here to, take your mind off stuff and put you to sleep, because it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. I guess that's all I could say, new listeners. You got that. Well, now I'm going off topic and tempting to the podcast that overdoes everything. And still, the over-the-top podcast that's made to underwhelm. It's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots, and if you're listening right now, I want to tell you about Sleep With Me Plus, our membership program where you could support the show that you rely on, the podcast that puts you to sleep. You get ad-free episodes, story-only versions, and much, much more. And we count on the listeners who value the show and are willing to support the show back. So if you're one of the people who counts on Sleep With Me every single night, maybe you listen all night long, maybe you listen 5 nights a week, Sleep With Me Plus is made for you and how you listen to the show. And if you're planning on listening next year or the next 4 years or even the next few months, please consider supporting the show back. I mean, like I said, it's an amazing platform that we have at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, but it also keeps the show going for you and everybody else that's going to count on it. Whether it's through this holiday season, to keep you company in the deep, dark night. And you can sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. From the people I've been hearing about that finally took action, they said, Scoots, I did hear you. I was listening. It's best to sign up right now because you probably will fall asleep and forget about it. And I realize that's interrupting you drifting off tonight. But if you do it tonight, if you do it right now, you'll be like, okay, man, I'm a part of this amazing thing, and I'm making it happen now and long into the future. So sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, and thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being that person who's listening to me and hearing me and taking action, because you're rare and you're powerful. Like, you're helping out so many other people, keeping this community going, this welcoming place long into the future. Oh, Mystery Bard, a lot of people help out on the show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son, sounds like an earful, wrote the theme song, edits episodes too. Carl W. the Legend, also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer, Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard, I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you, any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. Don't forget, if you're not in a position to support the show directly financially, but you want that access to Sleep With Me Plus, you could get it for free just by referring people with our referral program. And you can sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. And you just refer people to free podcasts and you get rewarded with Sleep With Me Plus. And if you've tried the referral program or you're unable to do the referral program for some reason, let me know through the contact form on our website, because we do have a scholarship program set up too. We just ask you try out the referral program first. So, that's an option, because, if you're looking for access to that sweet, sweet stuff, we're here for you. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts you're thinking about, like things on your mind. So thoughts, things you're thinking about, thoughts, feelings. So anything you're experiencing emotionally that might be coming up for you. They could be about the thoughts, or it could be about something else. It could just be there. Like, they don't have any mystery subscription boxes of feelings, but I feel like I get one unexpectedly. I actually feel that way about mail in general anyway. I say, oh boy, what is this thing? I did get, like I said, today I had 2 things. And I had a letter. Well, let's not talk about that, right? Well, this is things that could keep you awake. It's just, I say, because I get the thing where you get your mail emailed to you before you get it. I always tell people about that, and they say, what's it called? And I say, I thought it was called like confirmed delivery or something. And I say, they take a picture of your mail or something. I don't know. They email it to, so then you can start overthinking before the mail even gets there. It gives me a head start on delaying opening my mail. It's great. Really has cut down on the time my pre-procrastination time. I can get straight to the procrastination. No more. It's really added something to my life. I got to tell you. I don't know if there's a place you could review whatever that service is called. It's free, I think. If I'm paying for it, I didn't even know about it. I'll tell you what, if they say, well, we got to, like, some people say stuff about the mail and stuff. I say, well, if you charged me $5, I would definitely pay $5 a month for that. I'm just saying. I mean, I already do pay, when I'm calculating my income, but like I say, I'm happy to pay $5 a month to send me pictures of my mail so I can start thinking about it before I get it, before it even gets there. So that happened today. Maybe I'll talk with the new listeners and try to get back to that. Because new listeners, you're like, what is going on? Regular listeners, they kind of like me to hear. They love my foibles. Oh boy. They say, Scoots, keep it human, man. That's what they'll say if there's ever like a coming of age high school movie about in the fictional world of the podcast, not a real one. But they when I walk off down the field and I say, Coach, I quit. Principal, you could take this, you could take this award and pin it on someone else, because what did I say I was supposed to say? I'm keeping it human. Oh, you're not up for an award, son. Oh, okay. I guess oh boy, sorry, I was daydreaming again and walked to the front of the room. Sorry about that. So, if you're new, so thoughts, it could be feelings, it could be physical sensations, whatever is keeping you awake. I'm here to take your mind off of that and let you fall asleep. Now, if you're new, you may already be questioning it, unless you are down. Are you down with delaying your mail opening? Oh boy, I'm not encouraging it. I do not want to glamorize my behavior, my avoidance behaviors, but I do want to normalize them for you, because they say that's what one of the important things a podcast serves. Okay, but so thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, could be something else keeping you awake, but whatever it is, what I propose to do is create a safe place. I got room here. I'm smoothing it. I'm patting it down. I'm opening it. I got cross breezes. I got other stuff. You want it warm, you want it cold. You like it. You say, Scoots, do you have a lukewarm, safe place? And I'd say, sure. Are you lukewarm on safe places, or do you want a safe place that's lukewarm? And here's what I've learned through the listening skills of podcasts. I'd say, tell me more about what lukewarm means to you. Do you have a specific number in mind or a feel? And you say, Scoots, no one's ever asked me that before. Thank goodness you're imaginarily here in an imaginary world where you can. And I say, don't worry. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. He said, well, how could we possibly, and I said, well, this is a safe place. It's a magical place. So just give me a thumbs up. When this would be, when the Sleep With Me, whatever, the Sleep With Me theme park opens, I don't think it would be very successful, but who cares? Whatever. Well, they say, well, what did you do with that grant when we pinned that award on you? Well, I reopened an abandoned theme park that then it never became abandoned, but it did shut back down. We cleaned it up though, and spent most of it on, natural organic climate control. We had thermal stuff, we had solar stuff, we had wind-based stuff. And one of the key features, if you don't mind me bragging, was the ability to even reach lukewarm temperatures, which someone could determine on their own, if that's what lukewarm meant to them. Someone else might have wanted a temp. They say, I like my safe place tepid. I say, no problem. Just give me a thumbs up when we're at the right temperature. And if it changes, we'll be, if you want us to monitor, we could just come and check in every once in a while, or you could give us a buzz. Or you could just call out and say, a little cooler. This is no longer lukewarm. And I'd say, got it. So I'm going to try to create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. One way is just to go off topic and keep talking. And what I do is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So, I'll go off topic, I'll keep talking, I'll jump around. You've already kind of seen that. And if you're new, there's a lot of important things I want you to know. And the first thing is it's okay to come to the show and not like it and not be sure if you like it and be skeptical or have a frowny face. And I'm not, I'm legitimately saying that. Because that's a natural way to come to a sleep podcast. You say, I'm skeptical, or I don't know. What are these creaky, dulcet tones in my ears? I feel tepid. And I'd say, very good. That's good. That's a good way to approach everything. Or at least that's that's the way I do it. So I'm familiar. And yeah, this show's very different. So let me give you some information beyond that. Your experience with the show is okay. And that is, I'd like to meet you where you are and not try to change your mind. Actually, you could change it. You can just see how it goes. And that's the first piece of recommendation that just comes from the listeners. Give this show a few tries. And if you kind of decide that now, then it'll be easier to it'll be easier to leave later, or you'll just keep listening. You say, okay, yeah, I'm going to just give this show 3 tries. And then after that, I'm out. And either you'll be out asleep or you'll be moving on. There's other sleep podcasts, Sleep Whispers, Miette, Sleep Cove, Sleepy, Get Sleepy. There's probably, some Empty Bowl. There's so many more. And there's other, so it's not a big deal for me to win you over. I just hope I can help you. So that's one. And a couple of reasons why the show feels different and people don't necessarily like it right away. One, it's not really a podcast you listen to. As you've already seen on what I was talking about that I already forgot about before, because wasn't I talking about something before I started talking about a safe place? And I don't even have any idea. I'm not kidding either. I don't have any idea what that was. I said, well, I'll try to get back to that. Did it have to do with grade school? I don't know. But so, this is a podcast. Obviously, you say, wait a second, he doesn't even remember what he was talking about because he's got so much gobbledygook in his brain. I say, yeah, you got that right. So whatever it is that's keeping you, you don't really listen to me. You only kind of just like I talk about a lot of times. You say, Scoots, oh boy, lukewarm theme park, huh? That's interesting. Okay. So that's kind of one way to approach it. Don't listen to me. The other thing is I don't really put you to sleep. I more keep you company as you fall asleep. So kind of just see how it goes. I'm just, I was talking about mail. I just remembered. Okay, so hopefully I'll remember to talk about that more. Avoiding mail. That was one of the sequels to You Got Mail. I said, I don't want mail. It was like, I was supposed to be Billy Crystal's son in the movie. They said, well, that doesn't work. And I said, well, I'm making it up. It's called I Don't Want Mail. And my dad has become, and my mom, I don't know how, believe it or not, I've never seen that movie. And I think Tom Hanks was in it and not Billy Crystal. My brain got I had too much Meg Ryan free association going on. What's my favorite Meg Ryan movie? I think it's Presidio, if Meg Ryan's in that movie. But I can't be sure of anything. I can't be sure of anything other than I have to get back to these new listeners. So this podcast doesn't really put you to sleep. It's more here while you. Maybe Top Gum. That's not a Meg Ryan movie. She's in that film. So no, I'd say, I don't know. Mark Harmon wasn't Mark Harmon in Presidio? I don't know. That's not my favorite Mark Harmon movie though. It's Summer School. I think I've seen Summer School. I think I've seen Presidio too. Those are old 80s movies. So don't worry about it. Probably very problematic films. And neither one I've seen. I shouldn't be bringing them up because I don't think I've seen either one in 20 or 30 years. Okay, so sorry about that, kids. This podcast won't really put you to sleep. It keeps you company while you drift off. That's why the shows are about an hour, to give you plenty of time. And then if you can't sleep, I'll be here for you. Or if you wake up, I'm here for you. Like I said at the beginning, I underwhelm. That's what I do. So if you need some underwhelming in the middle of the night or during the day or the whole night because you can't sleep, I'm here. That's my job and that's my honor. Whether you're not listening to me asleep or you're barely listening to me while you're awake or you're actually listening, those of you that actually listen, you know I'm here for you and I care. So that's one thing. Then the other thing that throws new listeners way off, even some longtime listeners, which I see haven't even listened to the show for 3 years because we really haven't changed it very much. But so show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, and swamp-based beings in this case because of the type of episode. So that's so you know you're welcome here. Then there's business. And actually, the front business of the show isn't that long. There's business and resources. So that takes up a few minutes. Usually we talk about Helix, we talk about the Patreon, we talk about resources. Then there's an intro. The intro goes from 6 or 8 minutes into the show to 20 or 22 minutes. And that's all ish, somewhere in that range. And that is me. That has nothing to do with business or anything. The only business it is taking your mind off of stuff, putting you to sleep, over-explaining. And then, sometimes stuff comes up like my mail and the ability technology has given me to pre-procrastinate, to pre-procrastinate opening my mail. So hopefully I'll get back to that. Don't worry, regular listeners. So that's the intro, but that could still throw new listeners off. I get a lot of strong emails about the intro because I think a lot of people just think it's an ad, which they say, oh, have you I guess I can't ask if you've listened to it if the purpose is not to listen to it. But the real purpose of the intro, the reason, because I could, and this was proposed to me multiple times in the first few years, just reuse the same intro. And I'd say, no, that's not how brain bots work. They adjust and they adapt. Those things that keep us awake at night, they're constantly evolving, in my opinion. Or at least mine are, alongside technology. They say, you can open, that literally happened to me with this mail example. But so the reason the intros are different every time is so you get something different but familiar every time. But also because the regular listeners, they use this as part of their ease into bedtime. Like this Sleep With Me podcast is not you get into bed, I'm going to count down from 30 and you're going to be asleep. And that may work in other places or with other shows. It doesn't work here. This is more of a companionship show. A companion you just got to barely pay attention to. And so the intro, you could start it like as you're getting ready for bed or as you're in bed or wherever you are. And it gives you some distance from the day and starts to take your mind off of stuff. And then I lose your attention. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the story. That's the important business. And you can always find it in our show notes or on our website, because that's like where the meat of the podcast, it's just how the podcast structure works. So there's the business there. Then there's our story. Tonight it'll be a wrap up of our episodically modular series, kind of like a making of our series, Odder Things. And then there's thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show. And to kind of go along with the other stuff, the reason I make the show is because I've been there tossing and turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep. And I care. I know how it feels in the deep, dark night. And if I can help you, give you some companionship, be your boar friend, your boar bae, your boar bud, your boar bestie, your boar bruh, your boar sib, your boar cuz, I don't know, your boar buddy. Did I say boar bud? Yeah, any of those things, and I can help, that's great. It really gives meaning to my life. But more so is the fact that you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you can rest. And if you get that rest, if I can provide it or someone else can, that's really a good thing for you to be able to be more rested tomorrow. Because I know how it feels not rested. And I know what my world's like and what it's like when I encounter other people and try to get stuff done. So if you're rested, the world's going to be a better place. That's true. That is actually true, those things. You deserve a good night's sleep. And the better your life is, the better our world is. The more you can flourish, the more the world can flourish. I mean, if there's simply a philosophy driving that show, that's pretty much it. I mean, mostly I know how it feels, though, because... So this mail thing, and this is what I'll wrap up with, because like I say, well, I know how it feels. So I have a thing where it emails me my mail before it comes. And there was a strange confluence. This always happens. I had procrastinated on getting 2 things in my apartment fixed. Well, one thing, then something else broke. Believe it or not, I haven't even told about 2 other things broke on top of that, but not major things. And I kept procrastinating, and finally the second thing happened, and I said, oh, I got to get this fixed because this water's coming out of it. So I put in a work order, literally within, I'm not even kidding, within moments. Then I got my mail, and it was an official letter coming from my landlord, like a picture of my mail coming tomorrow, which was impossible related to the work order. And instead of, being open-minded, I said, well, that's not good. Oh boy, that's really not good. It's I just don't have that ability yet. I'm trying to develop to be like, well, it could be anything. And I did say, couldn't it be anything? I said, nope, not for you, buddy. Should have never put that work order in. Talk about the last nail and the old COFF to the I to the, that letter before M. It comes after him, though. Anyway, and I didn't really have the ability. So then I was like, well, and then I said, what time's I don't want to open I don't want to know what's in that letter. Who knows what it could be? Not 10 into the year, whatever the opposite of that is, even though none of this is true. There's no anything factually say, well, you're pretty quiet. You mind your own business. Your biggest flaw could be not getting stuff fixed on time. And this letter came out before and it ended up, it was totally nothing. It was hey, this is a policy about this thing. And it was to all the tenants, all the properties that they own and manage. So... I don't know. That's the kind of person that makes a sleep podcast, I guess, is my point. I don't know. It's interesting that they say, some people, I think there's adjusted people out there that say, well, yeah, I don't need that mail thing because I love getting mail. And I'd say, really? You don't have multiple, do you have multiple stacks of mail or, just one big stack, or do you vacillate between them? Stacks of mail. I get to my mail as soon as I open it up. I say, oh boy, you betcha. Wow. Well, I make a sleep podcast, so that's not what happens for me, but that's great for you. So I'm glad you're here. That's the main message. I really hope I really yearn and strive, and I really hope I can help you fall asleep. I appreciate you coming by. And give the show a few tries, like most listeners say. And here's a couple of ways for you regular listeners I'm able to bring this podcast twice a week. Everybody, Scoots here talking about tonight's sponsor, Uncommon Goods. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. If you haven't finished your holiday shopping yet, do not worry. We got a secret source for incredible original gifts, and that's Uncommon Goods. They've got unique handpicked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, and delight. And that it's exactly what I wanted feeling. You know how good that feels when you give someone a gift and they say that. It's exactly what I wanted. Somehow Uncommon Goods knows exactly the perfect gift for every single person you know. So skip those last minute obvious gifts and give something truly original. Go to uncommongoods.com. Yeah, I'm just looking on their site now. Like we did that episode about the get out of room games. I got Uncommon Goods, but man, look at this. They got amazing stuff for gardeners here. They have gifts for travelers, for people, bikers, eco-friendly gifts. And of course, what I love to give is games. They have so many different amazing games. That's perfect for everyone on your list, everyone's interest. You know, what's better than giving a gift that's unforgettable? The cool thing about giving a gift that's unforgettable is they'll remember that you gave them something that they really wanted, really loved, really used. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/sleep. That's uncommongoods.com/sleep for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. And what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever is keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things on your mind from the past, the present, the future, all those things, or, say, well, there's a past thought. Oh, there's a present thought about the past. There's a future thought about the past because of the past of the future. There's a thought about Days of Future Past. I wonder what streaming service that's on. So it could be thoughts, could be feelings, any emotions coming up for you, remaining from the day, anticipatory emotions. Could be sweet emotions, though sometimes those keep you up, though, so it could be emotions, it could be physical sensations, it could be changes in routine or schedule or someone else's routine. It could be baffling. Whatever it is that's keeping you awake, I'd like to take your mind off that. What I'm going to do, or what I propose to do, is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Initially, my lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones are neither lulling or soothing for some people, but eventually ideally they will be. They're the only tones I got that are suitable for bedtime. My non-lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones are more so this is my bedtime voice. So I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use those while I use my lulling, soothing tones. There's a question, though. like this is one of those tree in the woods chicken or egg things, or frog or the egg. Is my voice my creaky dulcet tones? Well, I guess are they carried on sound waves, or are they are sound waves, and they're carried on sound waves. That's something to think about. I never thought, because they said, well, what's carrying my creaky dulcet tones across the deep dark night? And the old physics brain said they're carrying themselves, I guess. So maybe not. I don't know. But that's a little bit too, it's not very deep, because you say, well, it's not a deep thought. It's just a thought I don't have the knowledge to comprehend. And I don't, this is a good thing about this podcast. If you're new, there's nothing to comprehend here. That's one of the first things I want to let you know. This is a podcast you don't really need to listen to. You don't really comprehend it so much as it's there. And you say, what is this dude was he just talking about? What was he talking about earlier? Did he say Yodish beings? Does he say he has craggy dentist tones or something? Because he does sound like a craggy, what I would imagine a craggy mountain would sound like, and, or a dentist in a craggy mountain. Well, no, it's a little bit more soothing than that, but he is a little craggy. The craggy dentist. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that anymore, so let's just move on. So, this is a podcast you don't really listen to. So if you're trying to wait for it to start, or you're going to say, when is he going to make sense? When am I going to comprehend what he's talking about? This podcast is best consumed passively. And just like if you're looking at something craggy, unless you're like some sort of adventurer or like one of those climbers, you say, well, that's pretty like, I guess I'm craggy aspirational. I would love, not to do any of the stuff that involves all the work, but just like if I had power of levitation, I'd love to check out some craggy mountains up close and rub my hand. Oh boy, craggy mountain. Would I want to rub my hand around? Oh boy, just to see your I'd love to feel your crags, if you don't mind me, if you don't mind me, appreciating your natural beauty, but you're so high up that normally I have to, it's from the road. That's where I consume most of my crags, is from the road. Well, would you see that over there? That's a craggy mountain. There's not a lot of, I'm sure, because craggy mountains, as opposed to, like you'd say, Scoots, can you give me an example of a famous craggy mountain? And I'd say, unfortunately, no, because finally, I guess today is the first time crags there's probably one called Crags National Park. I don't know, Pinnacles, is that? There's a lot of ones with fancy names. Like you'd say, well, what about Yosemite? I'd say, no, Yosemite's a little smooth to be called a crag. El Capitan, if it was smaller, there's probably craggy spots in Yosemite National Park, but those aren't the ones getting all the attention. If El Capitan wasn't so massive and majestic and it had all the light playing at it, like if it was like little, I don't know, is there one called Mont Capitan, like that's smaller or something? Or I don't know, like a little lieutenant. They say, well, that one's craggy, but that's outside. That's in a different park. So I don't know. I don't really know a lot of things off the top of my head. I was just thinking of it because I drove by some craggy stuff not that long ago. And I said to myself, I like crags. Also, I like going off topic. Sorry about that. So if you're waiting for this podcast to make sense, there you go. It doesn't really ever make any sense. It just kind of barely makes sense. You'd say he's kind of almost right. Except for super crag, super crag fans, you'd say, well, Scoots, you don't know, Smith Rock State Park? I'd say, well, I've heard, I get that one mixed up. Is that, or you don't know Jones and Jones, old Troubadour Stone? It sounds like you're just making up words and trying to associate them with crags. And I'd say, you're right, I am. You caught me because I'm within you. Well, it's a good try. So it's a podcast you don't really listen to. It's also a podcast that doesn't really put you to sleep. Oh, now my brain just said, was there anything on Tatooine that you would consider craggy? And I'd say, well, it's kind of tough when you're in a canyon. I guess crags are best viewed at a distance, so I can't say that I saw any crags on Tatooine or that other planet that we were in recently. But okay, so it's a podcast you don't really listen to. It doesn't really put you to sleep either. I'm here to keep you company while you drift off. That's why the episodes are about an hour, to give you plenty of time to fall asleep. And if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here to keep you company. That's one of my promises to you, is I'm here to keep you company. So podcast doesn't really put you to sleep, and it doesn't really ever get started. Also, the structure of the show can throw new listeners off. But what I want to say to my regular listeners, you're important too, regular listeners. Holy moly. I mean, oshkosh bagosh. I mean, thanks for letting me know your favorite crags. Isn't crag a nice word? How come that's not that you don't really know? Does anyone know a crag out there? Old Crag Cromwell. That was one of the one Cromwell that wasn't famous. Crag Cromwell. Believe it or not, absolutely adorable was Crag Cromwell. Misnamed, or you'd say aptly named, those of us that love crags. But no one, because I'm trying to think what probably, I got to think of I'll name a plant crag, because that's a good name for a plant. A turtle, you could call it, a turtle would be good. I'm not trying to belittle you turtles. I'm just trying to think of what resonates, where you say that is definitely a crag, like a snapping turtle. You'd say, well, I want you to meet my snapping turtle at a distance, of course. It's my snapping turtle crag. Wow. That's an aptly named turtle. You say, yeah, I want you to meet my plant. I don't know what kind it is. It's got some fuzzy stuff on it, some lumpy leaves. This is Crag the plant. I don't know what other things. Maybe a fish, like one of those fish that looks like it would be a crag. I'm sure there's a lot of fish out there. You'd say, no, that's a crag. I agree with you. Is that a freshwater? Yeah, it is. That's actually a species. Crag is a fish species. Is it anything like a rock lobster? No. Did you just hear Fred Schneider's voice when I said that? I did. But anyway, so, podcasts don't really put you to sleep, doesn't? Structure of the show. I was sorry. I was saying hi to the new listeners. I got off topic again. So structure of the show can throw people off. And it really, people have strong feelings about it. And I think it's just because the show really does defy expectations, not always in a good way. So if you're used to regular structure or a structure you would expect, this show's different. It starts off with a greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Yodish beings and such. Then there's a business and listener or like directed stuff. That's how we keep the show coming out twice a week. Then there's there's the intro, then there's the business, there's the business, then there's the intro. The intro goes on like about 20 minutes or so, somewhere around 14 to 20 minutes. And it's just me talking about the podcast. And that's one of the things people think, that the business and the intro is the same thing. The intro is business that just like in Brewster's Million, where you say we're in the business of doing I'm in the business of talking about stuff, but I never get to the point. So the intro is just to introduce the podcast to new listeners, but then it's also to help regular listeners to fall asleep, to give you some distance from the day. So you say, okay, now I can fall asleep. I don't need to, because I ease you into bedtime. The whole idea of the intro is you could play it before you get in bed or while you're getting into bed. Some people will fall asleep during it. Some people will find they prefer to skip it, but for most listeners, it's helping you drift off or be a part of a structured bedtime. Be a part of a structured bedtime routine where you're unwinding. So that's the intro. Then there's business. Then there's our story. Tonight will be a recap of Mandalorian Chapter 10, The Passenger. So, and then there's the thank yous at the end. So that's a structure And what else do you need to know if you're new? This podcast does not work for everybody. You probably already figured that out, though, because you said I never heard anybody use Crag more times. What about the person in, they were in both one of the Thor movement, I can't even say that word without stuttering, Ragnarok. There's a character that could have been there's a couple of characters in there. You'd say, well, what's your name? Crag? Well, thank you. I'd love to be Crag. Also, see if you can think of the character, and then you say, wait a second, that reminds me of season 1 of The Mandalorian. So a little cookie in there for you. So that's, what was my point about that, though? Oh, not everybody likes the show either. So give the podcast a few tries and see how it goes. It does not work for everybody. Because they'll say, well, okay, this kind of worked for me or kind of didn't. Just see how it goes and see if you like it or not. So that's the structure of the show. I'm trying to think what else. The reason I make the show is because I've been there in the deep, dark night, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. So I want to help, if I can, because I know how it feels, and I want to make bedtime something that you feel a little bit more neutral about, where it doesn't feel so craggy, or you don't feel craggy tomorrow. You say, whoa, boy, that was as smooth as I imagine the face of Half Dome is. Even though it's not technically probably not smooth at all. Oh, boy, did I slide in bed, and then I did some, whatever. I sculpted some clay. I modeled some clay. Oh boy, did it look good on me too. I got back out of bed and I sashayed with my clay. I was the first, I'm the first modeling clay model that's not made of clay. And they say, are you ensconced in clay? That was what they said to me at City. They said, you're going to have to you're going to have to pick a number. And I said, I am. Thank you for using that wonderful word, though. Yes, that's what I said when I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, ensconced in clay. Today, I say I'll be ensconced in clay as I was dressing in clay, which you really don't do. I don't recommend it. And don't go to any city halls this was a Lego city hall that I built. So it was a little bit different situation. And, but they weren't even happy, and it was playtime. Well, unfortunately, it was also at a Lego store. So then I had to deal with but I said, I'd like to make a proposal, we don't have an official garment, vestments for this town. And I'd like to declare that this is a clay, I'd like to, and they said, what's your angle? And I said, I put all my money in clay. I don't know if you heard me a while ago. I said clay's making a comeback. And so I put it all in clay. Really, all my coins. I wrapped them in clay. I can't find them because I don't even want to try to get all the clay off of it. I'm not even thinking about getting the clay. So how'd you get ensconced in clay? Very slowly, one piece of clay at a time. Anyway, I got to get back to the intro. So not everybody likes this podcast. That's, I don't know how I got dressed in clay. I thought I was talking about crags. Oh, because maybe you're modeling clay, getting, doing a part of your wind down routine. So that's what the podcast is here for, to give you some distance between the daytime and the nighttime and to ease you into bed. So see how it goes. That's one of the reasons I make the show, because I've been there. The other reason I make the show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place you could rest and get some time and get some rest and get some wind down. And then tomorrow, ideally, you're in a better place. That's, and then you say, well, I'm flourishing now. I've been listening to Sleep With Me for a while. Those are my favorite emails, or people that say, I'm flourishing so much, Scoots, I don't even need to listen to you anymore. And I say, that's great. That really is. That gives me purpose, because if you're flourishing, the world's going to be a better place for all of us to live in. So that's it. That's why I make the show. Give it a few tries. That's what most listeners say. It's free, so just see how it goes. And I think that's it. I'm glad you're here. I work very hard. I earn a nice drive. And I'm glad to, yeah, I appreciate your time. And I really want to help you fall asleep. Here's a couple of ways I'm able to bring this show free twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be thoughts, things you're thinking about on your mind. You're thinking about past, present, the future, tomorrow, next week, whatever it is, stuff. Whatever you're thinking about, what do you, I don't know, lists. That's a list of listicles and lists. Holy moly. Remember when I was going to start that podcast, a litany of lists, and I never followed, that's on my list now because another thing I never followed through on. That's one list I've never made, luckily. Like it's one of those self-generating lists. Maybe I'll get back to that. So whatever's keeping you awake, thoughts, feelings, any emotions coming up. They could be emotions about the past or the present or the future, physical sensations, whatever it is that's keeping you awake. Changes in schedule, time. Maybe you work. Here's a big shout out to my second and third shift workers. And those of you on the fourth, those of you on the fourth shift, which I've, tried to promote more and more. And those of you on shifts in 4D, you say, well, I'm working in the fourth, I got a shift in the fourth dimension, Scoots. What about me? I say, don't worry. One day I'll mention you on an episode. Will you hear it? I don't know, because I don't know how that works. Well, do you work here and return to the fourth dimension? Or do you work in the fourth dimension and return here? Did I say that? Did my brain just get caught in another dimension? How many dimensions are there again? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, did this have anything to do with how many axes are there? Is there X, Y, and Z? Okay, my brain is definitely dead silent when I'm asking these questions. I was waiting for an answer, even inside my head that I would have given voice to. No answers in there. In fact, I felt some part of myself rolling its eyes when I said X. I said, "What?" And then I heard something mutter. What do axes and dimensions have to do with each other? And I said, "Whoa! Hold the phone there, because how are you going to get what if you had to measure a dimension? Well, you'd need the axes, or you'd say like length and width, in depth. That's 3D, correct?" So I think it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. And that's how I treat those parts of me. I say, well, this is, I'm not here to get into a big thing about this. I just was wondering. And I think it's, I'm just asking questions. Okay. And then my brain says, yeah, I guess you're right. Sorry, I didn't see it that way. But you're right. I never would have, my brain, without a hint of sarcasm that I can detect, said, I never would have thought we'd need to get out the old measuring tape and start measuring dimensions or and I said, well, somewhere out there in the history of time and space, there's definitely been someone or will be right now whose job it has to do with measuring the dimensions of dimensions. I mean, that's a reasonable assumption, right? Oh, my brain just said, I know one person that wouldn't be qualified for that. And I say, you're right about that. I would not be qualified for, they'd say, what is that? Is that what number is that? Or is that a letter? Well, I estimate, I use a form of estimation called, the tape measure keeps moving around. It's my own special form of estimation. I mean, that was a Wrigley dimension you had me dealing with. You said, nebula, can you just stay in one place while I measure you? And that wasn't Nebula, the famous character that associates with superheroes or superheroine. That was something else. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I'm in the middle of I'm in the middle of the start of a sleep podcast. Oh boy. Okay, so whatever's keeping you awake, I'm here to take your mind off of stuff. What I'm going to do, and I just gave you an example, is I'm going to send my voice across the deep dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to get mixed up, which we've just seen. Not go anywhere. You see, he talked about stuff, but I don't ever, he's the only person that could talk about something without reaching a conclusion. I'd say thank you very much. I mean, if you once you've had my imaginary future job and another, measuring dimensions of dimensions, I think that's probably what one of the. I mean, really, when you talk about that, that's really an essential job of an astro person. I don't know if it's an astrophysicist, but that would say, wouldn't that be? You could use that if you're an astrophysicist. Say, well, what does an astrophysicist do anyway? Well, one of our main jobs is measuring the dimensions of dimensions. Maybe I should check in next time I check in at one of the great particle colliders. I heard I heard there's a new superconductor that doesn't have to be measured in Kelvin or something. So I'm excited about that because that makes it easier for me to pop in and join in the collision. I say super collision. That was a wonderful one. That's another book I will be working on one day. Compliments for super colliders and particle accelerators. If you meet a particle, things to say if you meet a particle collider. What did I say? Particle accelerator or a collider or a super collider at a party. Small talk with super colliders and particle accelerators. So, oh boy, if you're new, you're already hearing the podcast, so you already have a good idea. So this show is not a podcast you need to listen to. And I think I set a good example of why. It's a kind of podcast you kind of barely listen to. You just kind of barely pay attention. So that's one thing to know. The other thing to know is this podcast really doesn't put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company while you drift off. So even if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here. The shows are an hour to give you plenty of time. Fall asleep at your leisure. If you can't sleep, I'll just be here keeping you company and rambling. It's interesting because tonight is a science-based, if there's an imaginary branch of science, and I'm not talking about the one we're familiar with, I'm talking about a different one. Not fantasy science, but yeah, I mean, I guess in some sense, fantasy science. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, so this is a podcast you don't need to listen to. Don't need to fall asleep either. I just keep you company while you drift off. Podcast does not work for everybody either. That's the thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But for most people it worked for, it took 2 or 3 tries before they realized, oh, I feel like I was confusing distaste with neutrality. I actually feel so neutral about this podcast I could sleep to it. But naturally, when you first check the show out, you might have strong feelings about it because it's very different, bit confused. I'm a bit strange. I go off topic. I got creaky dulcet tones. So all I can say is give it a few tries and see how it goes. I really hope it can help you fall asleep. And I don't gain anything, really. I mean, if you saw my inbox, you'd just say, just give it two or three tries and see if it works. I hope it does. So that's that. Another thing, if you're new, that throws new listeners off is the structure of the show. Especially, I guess it throws people off whether this is their first podcast or they listen to a lot of podcasts. It throws them off either way. And I think the reason why is that the structure is not comparable to another podcast. So we start off with a greeting. That's pretty normal. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. That's how everybody knows that I want you to feel seen and welcome. And then I'm trying to make a safe place or a place that you could feel, you say, well, check that out. I'm feeling ambivalent at this point. an ambivalent place that could develop into something you feel safe in. So there's that. So that's the greeting. Then there's business. Business at the top of the show. Usually we got two pieces of business. Then the sleepy supporter zone. Then the intro. And the intro is a long part of the beginning of the show, usually from 6 minutes to 22 minutes or so, or at least lately. And that's where I introduce the podcast, which you say normally isn't an intro like around 30 seconds to 2 minutes. I say, yeah, normally it is. But this is an intro that could put you to sleep. So that's why it's 22 minutes. But really, the intro kind of serves a couple purposes. One, if you're new, it kind of gives you an idea what to expect. And you say, oh, okay, this is a podcast. Okay. Is he going to do like, I don't know, you get familiar with the idea that I'm, in the style of the show. But two, there are listeners that fall asleep during it. There are like 2 or 3% of listeners that skip ahead to 20 minutes and start listening there. And there are people that listen during the day or wake up and put the podcast on. There's a lot of different use cases, but for a lot of listeners, and this isn't right or wrong, but just like the usual way people get into the show initially is they listen to the intro during their wind down, whether they're in bed or they're getting ready for bed. And that makes the intro, that 20 minutes serves as a way to get some distance from your day, your daytime personality, and to make nighttime where something like a little bit nicer. You say, well, I'm easing into bedtime with Scoots. So I'm taking your mind off of stuff. And that way you're kind of descending ideally into sleep. I mean, that's the only way that works for me. So, so that's the intro. Then there's business, kind of that's the main meat of the business of the show. Then there's our story. Tonight it'll be a holiday episode where we look at Santa Claus. And, I'm just going to say it up front. One, I believe in Santa Claus. Two, I'm going to explain one argument that hasn't been put forth, like undisclosed, like, well, I don't know if I have, I guess I have firsthand knowledge of this stuff. When people say, oh, Santa's impossible, just a fantasy. And also I believe, Santa Claus turned things over to Roberta Claus in 2013. But you could call Roberta Claus is comfortable being called Santa Claus because Santa Claus is a role. Roberta Claus is the current person serving in that role, which is a long... She's only well, actually, I don't know this, actually. I just made an assumption. I'm operating on the assumption she's only the second person to occupy the role of Santa Claus, but I could be wrong about that. Not playing the fictional role of Santa Claus, the real role. So tonight I'll be talking about that. So, if you have young people in your life or you're a young person or you're a teacher, you could go ahead and put this on, you could put this on the syllabus. And I mean, I don't know. Can't promise you'll keep your job, but you could say, well, this is another argument of how all this is possible. It'll just help you see why you could get in the holiday mood. So we'll talk about that. Then there's some thank yous. So that's the structure of the show. Like I said, this podcast it's not for everybody, but for the people it works for, like they say, yeah, give it 2 or 3 tries. The other important thing is the reason I make the show. The reason I make the show is because I've been there, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. I've had all of those. I probably had all of those in the last 48 hours, including my new thing, which is, my daughter wants me to call it #laying, which I talked about. And it's because of this, this 2020, I wake up really early. And I try to get back to sleep because, I don't have a sleep podcast that I can put on. Luckily, you do. But you could also put this podcast on and just try this. And, I don't think I've told my therapist about this because this is really where I say, wow, I really am getting better. This stuff actually works. This all the work I put in. And I'm not kidding. I guess it sounds like I'm saying it facetiously. But so I have this new thing when I wake up early. That I kind of acceptance, I guess is what you call it. I say, okay, I woke up early. I don't want to get out of bed. but I also don't want to put pressure on myself to fall back asleep. So I'm just going to lie here for a little while, try to get comfortable, but try not to, because for me, once I say I want to go back to sleep, you know how that goes. And then I start to get, my temperature starts to rise, and I'm not my physical temperature, you know what I'm saying? And I just get frowny. In this new laying thing, it doesn't work all the time because you got to be in the right mood. I say, well, I'm just going to lie here. Maybe I'll let my thoughts drift. Maybe I'll meditate. Maybe I'll feel some feelings or get comfortable. Maybe I'll listen to some sounds. And tell you what, sometimes I fall back asleep. Sometimes I don't. And then sometimes I wait give it a few minutes and I say, well, I didn't fall back asleep, and I kind of start drinking coffee. So it's just one of the things that I don't recommend it. I'd recommend listening to this podcast and laying, falling back asleep. But, I've been there. That's the main thing. So I know how it feels in the morning or at night or, all the time. And so if I can help you, if I can make bedtime something you don't dread, that's the highest goal I could hit. If you just say, well, at least I got Scoots, I got that. At least I'm not like Scoots just laying there, hoping I got Scoots to keep me company. I mean, in some sense, I have pre-Scoots because whatever, I can just like let my thoughts drift sometimes. So it's like pre-podcast material. So if I can help, it really gives my life meaning. But also the other side of it is you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you can get some rest. And if I can help with that, that would mean a lot, because if your life's better, all our lives are better. If your life's richer, all our lives are richer. It's just the truth. It increases it. It's like an incremental increase in the goodness of the world. An incremental increase in the goodness of the world. Sign me up. That's my dream. So I really want to help put a little bit of an incremental increase in the rest you get, and in the goodness of your life. Or that you could live your life in a more fuller way. So that's why I'm here. But I, don't take that serious talk serious. Mostly it's me goofing around and talking to myself. So I'm glad you're here. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive, and I really want to help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to bring this podcast twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be thoughts, things on your mind that you're thinking about. So thoughts, thinking stuff. Thoughts, it could be feelings, like emotions coming up about the thoughts, or just that are there. They could be, they appear, sometimes they appear, sometimes they arrive, sometimes they're already there waiting. You say, how'd you get in bed? How'd you get in bed so fast? I didn't even know you were here. Well, I'm here waiting for you. Come on in. Just waiting for you. I'm sorry, because you're in a bathrobe. I don't see your name tag. Are you Regret or my Forlorn Malaise? Oh, yeah, it's me, Forlorn Malaise. I don't know, is that really a thing? Forlorn, doesn't being forlorn lead to malaise? Well, we could see where things lead tonight. Hop in bed with me and we'll see where it goes. Okay, I don't know what Sigmund Freud would say about this conversation. But okay, so I'm having feelings about it. So that's what that example was for. So it could be feelings, could be physical sensations, which I don't want to, I do have physical sensations sometimes connected to forlorn malaise or being forlorn or feelings of malaise. And here's what's strange. I probably said this before. When I say malaise, I don't feel malaise. I almost feel like the dawn of a night of malaise is breaking. Is that anything like, what's his name from those books where you say their name and then, wait, those books and those movies, you're not supposed to say their name. That's what malaise would say my name. And I said, well, when I do malaise, it makes me feel good. Especially because if you're a regular listener, you know that one of my favorite things to do nowadays is imagine I'm at a Renaissance fair. And anytime I see anyone that looks like they're a royal, from the royal court, I say, malaise. Especially like the Queen's court, I say, malaise, good day, malaise. And they say, did you just drop that D when you said miladies, or are you calling us a group of malays? And I say, oh, no. I'm really just trying to introduce a sleep podcast, and I got to, we'll go, what would they say, move along, and then, thank you, malays. My grace, and your grace, my grace, and your malaise. Anyway, so thoughts, feelings, could be physical sensations. It could be something else that's keeping you awake. Whatever it is, I'm here to take your mind off of that. Believe it or not, if you're new, yeah, that's what I'm here to do. While you fall asleep. So what I'm intending to do is create a safe place where you could set any of that aside. So I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night here. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Oh, so creaky are my tones. And you'd say, how creaky are they, Scoots? And I'd say, they make, I don't know how they're pretty creaky. I'd say, like, if I'm not good with jokes, especially ones that have punchlines. But I'd say so creaky that they make you forget about the door that's squeaky. And you say, okay, well, keep working on it. Okay, so, but I'm going to send my voice, creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to get mixed up. I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to go forwards. I'm going to pause like that. I'm going to use filler words and barely ever get to any points. And the whole idea is that's what takes your mind off stuff while you fall asleep. I'm really just here to be at your bedside. Now, my regular listeners know that, the kind of intro. Hi, regular listeners. Hello. Hi. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Sorry about those other listeners. I'm just focused on you now. And, how's your evening going? Okay. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not trying to make you center of attention. Did you remember when I talked about malaise? Do you take your sandwich with malaise or without malaise? Malaise, the sandwich topping you don't really want. Malaise, have it with a harumph. You see, is a harumph a sandwich or something you say when you're having it? Well, I say, well, what if it was like the animated character that helped us sell jars of malaise? It's like an imaginary grouchy friend, harumph. So you're having a malaise sandwich and you're feeding it to your imaginary friend, harumph. How come there's never been an imaginary friend named harumph? I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, we talk about the big ones. I mean, I guess there's Oscar the Grouch. Who was Oscar's best friend? Snuffleupagus? Or was Snuffleupagus kind of best friends with a Big Bird? Oh, Oscar was friends with that worm. What was that worm's name, right? Is a worm? I'm sure someone will let me know. Like the worm, there was like a worm or some sort of, like a pre-butterfly. Maybe it was a caterpillar. It was, to me, caterpillars and worms are different. I realize that, but I hold them with the same level of reverence. If I prefer not to hold them because I want them to run free and, have their own freedom. And, I want to mind my own business and just appreciate them from afar. Also, I have this new thing I'm doing, pandering to beings in case they become sentient. So if my harumph becomes sentient, say, well, I gave you those sandwiches, so but they were coated with Malays. Well, because I like saying that. Will you take it with, should I put Malays on both slices or just one slice? Do you see me doing the fancy TV commercial spreading with the knife back and forth, the sweeping motion? That's how I spread my Malays. Anyway, sorry, new listeners. So whatever's keeping you awake, I'm here to take your mind off that. That was for regular listeners. Yeah, sorry, but new listeners, I'm back. I just had to pander to just in case any caterpillars are listening or worms. That way, I got my bases covered for hopefully that'll tide them over for a few years. And they say, well, when the caterpillars took over, I say, well, that was 2020. Remember, I recorded something about you. And they say, Scoots, it's 2024. First of all, also, we have everything on videotape or, mental memory bank. And I said, what did and they say, well, you really didn't stop. And, you stopped and smelled the flowers. You didn't sigh and look lovingly and longingly at enough caterpillars. And I say, is it too late for me to start trying? Because I'm looking longing and lovingly at you, dear leader, and your court. Do you mind if I call you Malays? I realize I don't want to project anything onto you since you're a sentient caterpillar leader. Okay, you're right. I get back to the intro. Okay, so if you're new, a couple things you may have noticed already. Podcast is very different. So that's one thing. And I really go off topic a lot. You're right. So if you're new, most listeners say give it 2 or 3 tries. And the only reason people say that because they say, well, it takes 2 or 3 tries. One, you got to get used to the creaky dulcet tones. Then the second try, you might get used to the pointless meanders and superfluous tangents. And then the third try, you kind of realize, you don't really listen to the podcast. You just barely kind of listen. So that's one part of it. It's just kind of barely kind of listen to me. The other thing is that this podcast really isn't here to put you to sleep. I'm just here to keep you company while you fall asleep. I'm here to be your bore bud, your bore friend, your bore companion, your bore sib, and take your mind off of stuff. That's why the shows are around an hour, to give you plenty of time to fall asleep, or if you wake up, or if you can't sleep, or if you need a break during the day, I'm here to keep you company. That's really what my job is to barely keep you engaged. But I work really hard on the show because, I throw those things that are like jokes. They're 40% jokes, which, 40% of the joke, 0% of the punchline. Sleep with me. Now, with double the Malays. That's, you see, Malays. That's how I like my sleep podcast, with a side of harumph. And I'd say, well, it's with harumph at my side. That's my new side. I don't want to call you a sidekick. Don't worry, harumph. My new partner. Well, that's a little bit strong because that would mean that I'd have to consult you on everything. Will you just say harumph? Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that. I already have many, what do they call those? Like when you have multiple parts of you where with backups. I have so many different, whatever parts of me that already harumph about things or stronger criticisms. I don't know what if you say harumph? Okay, think about it. I'll get back to you. So this is a podcast you don't really listen to, doesn't really put you to sleep. And you say, well, what other information do I need to know? Because I'm not sure how to feel about any of this. And I would say, well, that's understandable because this podcast, it's very different. Other things that are different is the structure of the show. This could really throw you off, so I'm going to point it out to you. Of course, it's a little late, as some people may have already said. So show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. That's so you know you're welcome and you're seen. Then there's an intro. Then there's business. In the business, about 6 minutes, 8 minutes, I don't know. That's how we get to bring in the show twice a week for free. And then there's the intro. Now, the intro is about 20 minutes long, maybe 16 minutes sometimes, maybe 18, maybe 17, maybe 15, maybe 19, maybe 24. And it's where I introduce the podcast every single time, which is what a normal intro would be. But then I go off topic and I kind of just see where things go. I follow I go on a pointless meander and a superfluous tangent. And the reason I do that is because, well, one, that's, what I'm like, how I'm trained. I've been training to do this for years and years and years. But also because the show, the idea is it eases you into bedtime, right? Like, so the intro creates some distance between the daytime and the sleep time. It's kind of like audio dusk, you'd say. Yeah, maybe, Scoots. You're almost, yeah, it's like audio dusk, dusk audio. Dusk audio. The solution that Scoots just came up with. It's like audio. You don't listen to it and it doesn't make any sense. It's dusk audio. Now with extra malaise. Harumph. So, what was I saying? Oh, the intro. It goes on and on and on because, as you become a regular listener, you say, oh, I start listening before I get into bed, or I'm getting comfortable, or I'm slowly falling asleep. So it just gives you a little bit of a way to slowly land into bedtime. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the story. That's the essential business. And then there's the story. Tonight it'll be our modular episodic series with a touch of soap opera-atic action, North Pole, as the North Pole turns, or something. I don't know what it's called yet because I haven't recorded it. But so that's then there'll be the story. Then there's thank you. So that's the structure of the show. Those are the kind of other things you need to know. The other things that are important are you deserve a good night's sleep. And it's important to me that you get the sleep you need. That's really why I make this show. And not only do you deserve a good night's sleep, I believe our world will be a better place if your world's a better place. So if you get some rest and you get some solace, life's going to be better for all of us. So I think those are the things. I'm trying to think if I was trying to figure out anything else. I mean, that's what's important. So, yeah, I think that's it. I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate you checking this show out, and I really appreciate your time. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive, and I really want to help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple ways I'm able to bring this podcast twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things on your mind. So thoughts you're thinking about, thoughts, feelings, any emotions you're coming up. So thoughts about the past, present, or future, feelings about the past, present, future, or just that are there, that you're feeling. That's why they call them feelings. Feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature or routine. Whether, whatever, if you're, whatever's going on, it's whatever's keeping you awake. I'm here to take your mind off of it. And what I propose to do is create a safe place where you could set all that stuff aside at the door, or you could bring it with you and just set it at your side. You don't have to set it aside literally. I guess that's actually the right word of it. You could figuratively, or you could actually set it to your side, set it nearby. You said, well, no, I prefer it, don't worry, we got it set up. You maybe have heard of it in the past, a long time ago, or recently, who knows, I don't remember the stuff well. We did design cubbies, and here's the thing, I just realized that cubbies and cubs, like cute cartoon cubbies, there's also the Chicago Cubs are called the Cubbies. So if you're a Cubs fan, we have Cub-based Cubbies. And then if you say, well, I'm not a Cubs fan, I say, what do you mean? Come on. Like, don't you root for don't you have some Cub fan, And you say, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And I say, well, okay, well, we don't only have Cub-based Cubbies. We have Cubbies that look like Cubs. We have a bedtime drink called a Cup of Cubby, which took us a while to think of. We said, well, it's got to be a well-organized drink. What do you call that? Not perforated. What do you call that when it's like divided, but it's not divided? And they said, I don't know. And I said, well, a cup of Cubby. Yeah, I said, we like a bit like a fuzzy navel. But no, not an act. Because then you say, well, what kind of? There's almost a pun in there. Like, what does a cub drink? Or what do you drink out of a cub's belly? Nothing, by the way. That's the answer to that question. Oh, sorry. I was going to try to create so we have Cubbies, which also, or lockers. Those are, you can use, you can't use those interchangeable. We have interchangeable lockers, which are cool, and lockers with interchangeable things on the inside. Because you say, well, I'd like to make my locker, section it off into some Cubbies. And I say, don't worry. We also have shelving. We have floor space. So it's because some people say, I just put it on the floor. I don't need and I said, don't worry. Yeah, we got that too. You can do that. We'll be ready for you. So I'm going to try to create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. One of the ways I do that is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So I go off topic, I get mixed up, then I get confused, then I go on a topic. I say, well, profusion of confusion. That was a tangent I've gone on in my life. And then I'll talk about that. Then I'll circle back. But it's all to keep you company as you drift off. So a couple other things to know if you're new. A lot of important things to know. One thing I always tell you, if you're new or newish, is you could always skip the intro. Some people start the show at 20 minutes, 22 minutes, like about 2% of people, because they want to get to the story parts. But just skip the intro after you've listened if you've listened to the intro, like if you say, well, I like the show, I don't like the intro. Then start skipping ahead, because you never know. I mean, the intro became this way because of listener feedback, and not just like listener feedback over a couple of weeks, like years and years and years of listener feedback. So I wouldn't say it's been studied, but it's also studied that like 2% of people skip the intro. Then a few thousand people listen to the story only episodes on Patreon. So that's another option. You can't really, then people say, well, why does it have to have like ads? It's because, it's free, and otherwise it would be behind one of the services that either provide, that's just the choice I make is, if the podcast is free and listener and ad supported, that's how I can reach the most people at the minimal cost to the user. So that's that. Then, okay. Those are a couple things. So you can skip the intro, but I don't want you missing out either. I mean, you might, this is the one thing I said, I don't want you missing out on something you're going to fall asleep to and not listen to. It sounds strange, but it's just based on what I hear from listeners. So there's that. If you're skeptical, this kind of goes along with it, or you're doubtful when you're new to the show, that makes total sense. Or if you say, I don't know if I like this Scooter character. I can't believe my grandmother, someone I went to a dance with, and my roommate's, cousin all recommended the same podcast, and I'm not sure I like it. That's like the majority of people react that way. Skeptical. What do you mean you're going to put me to sleep? What are you talking about? Or they like this guy. Those are normal. I'm not defensive at all. Those are totally normal, legitimate reactions and common. So I just want to tell you, if you're feeling that way, totally normal. The only thing I'll tell you is that a large number of feedback, I mean, in the millions of people have told me that it took a few tries to get used to it. And maybe that's overstating things, but like if you hear from one person out of every 100, then yeah, it's in the millions for sure. Give it a few tries and see how it goes. The podcast is free, so just test it out like a couple nights and then see if it works for you or not, or if that skepticism wanes or whatever. But so that's the other thing to know. Also, this podcast is not here to put you to sleep, really. It's more here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff, to be your companion, your bore friend, your bore bae, your bore cuz, your bore sib, your bore bestie, your bore bra. Than to be, I don't know if I want to say, like, we're like the lily pad that the frog sits upon. We're not the frog that, we're like the lily pad, but I'm not sure about that because it doesn't make any sense. It just popped in my head. I thought I'd say it. That, like, literally I saw, it said, we're the lily pad the frog sits on. And they said, what are you, Reggie Jackson of sleep metaphors? And they say, I don't understand what you're saying. And I said, no, don't worry. So those like, so don't really, this podcast doesn't really put you to sleep. It's here. That's why the shows are about an hour, to give you plenty of time to drift off at your leisure. And if you can't sleep, whether it's situationally or you just can't sleep, I'm here to keep you company. I'm going to be here to the very end. And you can queue up episode after episode after episode if you need companionship in the deep, dark night. That's part of my job. So I'll be here to keep you company, whether you're awake or asleep. A couple of other things to know. This show, don't listen to me. That's the other thing. You're not here to put you to sleep, but I'm not here to be listened to. This is a podcast you barely pay attention to. Like I said, I don't want you missing out on your opportunity not to pay any attention to me and barely listen by skipping the story, but you can do that. And then you say, okay, that's what I prefer. So there's that. So those are two things. Oh, the other thing is the structure of the show, which I said kind of with the intro, but I'll now explain a little bit more detail. That can throw people off. So the show starts off with a greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, frog-based beings, Yoda, friends, Jedis, everybody, lily pads, talk about a good listener. That's like one of the most underrated listeners on the planet is a lily pad. Someone said they're not hearing you. I said, well, first of all, they are like, they can receive sound waves and water waves, by the way. They may not be listening to me, but that doesn't make them any different than the people in my life or the people that listen to this podcast. What was my point? Structure of the show. So it starts off with a greeting, so you know you're welcome here. Then there's business. That's how we keep the podcast free. Then there's the intro. Now, the intro is like somewhere right around now between the greeting, the ads, and the intro. It's like 20 to 26 minutes or something. I don't know. When I record it, it's different, but I guess that's kind of how it comes out in the end. And so, but the intro serves a really important purpose. Other than introducing new people to the podcast, it gives you some wind down time. And that's why it developed this way, is because if I just start the story, then you got to think about, well, the story, how I got to fall asleep before the story ends. I don't want you to have to worry about that. So there's this nice wind down or landing time where you can either be in bed getting comfortable, be in bed falling asleep, or getting ready for bed, or doing some other relaxing activity. Even if you're just laying there, chillaxing, playing with chillaxing figures. We invented that. Then they said, don't use chillaxing in the podcast anymore. And I said, I'll try to remember that. But, so that's what the intro is just to ease you into bedtime. That's my point. But yeah, it's not for everybody. Then there's business between the intro and the story. That's how podcast structure works. They say, well, that's where the ads go. So then there's that. And then there's our recap of the Mandalorian on Mandalorian. And, this time I just recorded the episode. And I managed to talk about it longer than the episode, which is, that's always an accomplishment. And so it's something I'm pretty proud of. I talked about, like, according to the recorder, I talked about a 34-minute episode for like 54 minutes or something. Now, some of that'll be edited out, dead air or whatever, but that's pretty good. So then there's thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show. The other thing to know is the reason I make this podcast is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you can get some respite and some rest so that you can live your life in a more full way tomorrow. And if I can make sleep less of a hassle, less of a rigmarole, something you don't dread, that's my goal. Because I've been there. The other thing is I know how it feels. Tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. Yep. I've dealt with all those things. So, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I make the show. And one way to view it is like a bit like a lily pad. You say, okay, like sleep with me is probably, you say, what natural thing this week are you going to compare the show to? I'd say, well, lily pad, functional, first of all. That's good for sitting. It's great for looking at. So aesthetically, I wouldn't say now a lily pad with with a lily. That's different. This is just a lily pad. You could say I would say it's aesthetically pleasing. Not all lily pads are. So I'd say, yeah, we're a little bit on the lily pad that's been in the sun and somehow sunk its roots into a place you say, well, that lily pad is not getting the maximum amount of nutrients like some of the other ones, but it's still a healthy lily pad. It's creaky dulcet lily pad for sure. Somewhat passive. You say, well, what's a lily pad do? It kind of just sits there. You could look at it. Also frogs, dragonflies, other I don't know here's a question that's never come up. Hey, water striders, do you need a break anytime? Let me know. I mean, we've had fictional water striders on the podcast before, but hey, if I was a lily pad, I'd say, hey, water strider, come on over, sit down or whatever, lad. I don't know what you do to relax, but if you'd like to relax, I've never seen a water strider relax. So they say, Scoots, what natural animal are you most like? I'd say, probably a water strider. You see, the water strider says, hey, bub, have you ever tried walking on water? The only other person to do it is a transcendent being. And I'd say, well, I'm aware of that. But, well, one time I saw at a garbage dump, they call it, like these styrofoam water shoes. I got those, and I fell down a lot. So I can't be easy. But yeah, I'm just saying, if you want a break, like I'm here, like as a lily pad or person, you could, you don't have any like protuberances or anything. You could hop on my skin if you want. Yeah, but, just an offer to water striders everywhere. Not all of you at once, of course, please know, like, that I can only accommodate, like that's just more of a polite way of saying it. If I meet first, there'd probably be an application process. If I was, figuratively as a lily pad, it's fine. I'm just more to say, hey, Scoots, this is the International Water Strider Association. We're the lobbying group for water striders. We heard your offer on the podcast, and we consider it a legal compact. So we'll be moving in. Moving in where? On you. We're going to be living on you now. Scoot Striders, we'll be calling ourselves. And they'd say, well, I don't think maybe before you want to try, maybe you send some representatives to try it out, because I can't recommend. I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot. I don't have a high stridability either. I mean, I could striding with the stride or so. So this is our friend Summer, who made a documentary about the podcast, and has an idea for a new doc. Just made me think of the possible subject, if Summer's listening, to say, striding with we could think of a group called the Striders, striding with the Striders. So, I don't know. So if you're new, you say, what happened? This person was trying to introduce a podcast, and then I say, well, that's how I'm like a lily pad. Also, a lily pad, like I said, it's a great thing to talk to. if you say, well, I got to get something off my chest, but I'm not really ready for a human or even maybe like a being that could look at me yet. I mean, maybe I'd try a toad or a frog later, but right, I said start with the lily pad because people, the people that don't get it would say, well, lily pad can't hear you. But I'd say lily pad's like it is like it could hear you. It can feel your sound waves. There's no doubt about it. Even science would back me up on this. I mean, you might have to talk. You don't need to talk that close. Don't close talk a lily pad right away. Also, probably not the best idea because it's so exposed, but, I think it remind me this summer when I if I finally get out of where I am, I'm going to kiss a lily pad. I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm going to do it. Like, and if you're a scientist, let me know. Say, Scoots, please don't kiss any lily pads. This is the Lily Pad Council of the World. Please don't kiss any lily pads. And I'd say, well, I'll bring some Purell or something. And they said, no, please don't put Purell. As the International Council of Lily Pads, we've decreed you not a friend of lily pads. And I said, well, I was just talking ideas. How about if I kiss my fingers and then touch kiss you? Whatever they call. Well, I'll blow you. Let's just agree on this. This summer, I'll blow lily pads kisses nonstop. I mean, talk about, like, this is 2020 when I'm recording this. But if you say, Scoots, how do you see 2021 going in a cartoonish fashion? Like, mid third quarter, mid to late 2021. That's like me in a boat blowing kisses to lily pads. That's what I'm looking forward to doing in 2021. Like 2021. That's if you say, Scoots, yeah, if everything goes good, what it'll be like, international travel, jet planes, extreme sports. Nope. In a boat, blowing kisses to lily pads and talking to them. Probably, at that point, I'll be serenading them. And, working on my new program for, water striders. Give them a break. Probably we'll have some signs or something. Slow your wake. Give water. Because, if you've ever been in a boat zone where, like, people park their boats and stuff, it says slow your wake. And then sometimes people, hey, give the water striders a break. Slow your wake. I would also put in an FRIGGIN, like, maybe let me know. Maybe Bernie could do an episode about that. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. I work really hard and, you're a nice driver. I want to help you fall asleep. I appreciate you checking the podcast out. And here's a couple ways I'm able to do this for you twice a week. Hey, this is Scoots. And, as I tuck you in, I want to talk to you about Sleep With Me Plus. That's our membership program, where you could support the podcast that where you could support the podcast that puts you to sleep. Members get ad-free episodes, story-only episodes. At higher tiers, you get all intro episodes, all-night compilations. There's Ray episodes in there. There's on-location episodes. There's balcony episodes, Fearless Flyer episodes, extra catalog episodes. So it's really, if you're a connoisseur of Sleep With Me, if you listen all night long, or you listen to a lot of episodes every single month, like more than 6 episodes a month, you're what we built Sleep With Me Plus for, but you're also who we count on to support the show back, because the podcast does mean more to you, and you do use it, and you do get a lot out of it. So if sleep is something you do rely on for sleep, for comfort, for a little company in the deep, dark night, this is your chance to make sure it's here for the long run. If you're one of those rare listeners who's hearing me right now, who's listening, and I guess we're here together. So if you could take a minute and sign up right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, you could do it right on your phone. And then you could drift off and know night after night after night after this, you don't have to worry about it. Not only will you have the ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear me putting myself out there to get people to support the show, but you'll also know you're a part of Sleep With Me's welcoming vibe a part of the community behind the show, keeping it going, not just for you, but everybody else that needs it. But if you're hearing me right now, you could sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. It would mean the world. Thanks.